Well, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to do a little bit different kind of a show here, and this is going to be the first one. And it was going to be titled Four Old Farts, but one of them we can't find. So we have...
you know, Bill, it's windy out.
It's windy.
You know what happens when windy? He blew away someplace.
Blew away. But anyhow, we have my friend Duane Weiss, we have my friend Norm Michael, and myself, and we're just going to, we'll get a fourth person in to talk with us too from time to time, and we're just going to be four old guys sitting around talking. Yep. And we'll see where it takes us. I've made a lot of notes, but first of all, Norm, tell me something. Where were you born?
Boston.
And raised in Boston?
No. My folks moved out to the suburbs, and I remember vaguely living out away from Boston in Brighton, I think it was.
Okay.
And then we moved to Dedham. Mm-hmm. My father bought a nice brand new house in Dedham.
Mm-hmm. How old were you that?
Oh, I was probably, let's see, I was born in '39. We went there in the '38 hurricane. No, the '38 hurricane I remember in Dedham. So I was born in '41 or so, I like that. '39, I guess it was '39.
Well, how could you remember something that happened in 1938 when you were born in 1939?
No, I'm sorry. 34.
Ah.
That's them. I get my numbers mixed up sometimes. January 3rd.
All of us don't want to admit how old we are.
1934, right. So then I do remember the '38 hurricane, vaguely.
My mother had a lot of memories of the '38 hurricane.
That was a big deal, I guess.
Yeah. And what happened in our neighborhood. And I interviewed John Robbins for one of my newspaper articles. And John and I talked a lot about the hurricane, and one of their sheds just, boom, fell over, trees came down, and it was it was quite the storm.
Oh, yeah.
Quite the storm. So how'd you find your way to Norfolk?
Well, I got graduated from UMass, and I got married, and I got a job at the Aggie, where I graduated from in way back. And so I got a job there, and we bought a house in Walpole, and we lived there for quite a while. And the guy that built the house in Walpole built the house in Norfolk, and that was Bob Bullock, Sr.
Okay.
And so we moved from one Bob Bullock house to another, and we've been there ever since, very, very happily.
Wonderful. On a nice, quiet street.
Yeah.
And raised your family.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. Terrific. And so you've been in Norfolk 40 years?
Yeah.
Great. And what, you've been a fireman for a long time. Yeah, that was a real passion of yours?
It was, yeah. I was hanging around the station one day, and Dottie Campbell was the dispatcher, and I'm hanging around, and Cribby comes up and says, "Hey, Norm, you want to be a fireman?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Get over there and start rolling hose so I can pay you." That was my introduction, and then we had on-the-job training on and on from there.
Yeah.
And we got pretty good at it, and we got out most of the fires before they got to the basement.
Yeah.
And I love being on the fire department. Yep. It was great. We had a lot of wonderful people to work with. And then one day, Cribby came in and said, "How many of you guys want to be EMTs?" What's that? Nobody said a word. And then he explained what it was. And then he explained, "We will pay you to go to school at the Norwood Hospital." Yeah.
Hand went right up.
Yeah. So a bunch of us went down and we became EMTs. And that was a wonderful experience. And I think we did quite well. And then, of course, when the paramedics came along, we died and gone to heaven because they were wonderful. Yep. And they still are.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. I remember, of course, my grandfather was the fire chief
right.
back in the 50s, Bill Sullivan. And then my stepfather, Jim Kirby, was the fire chief.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law, Billy Kelly, was the fire chief. And I was, as a kid, I have a lot of memories of going up to Harold Campbell's house.
Oh, yeah.
And they were Harold and Loretta were the two nicest people in the world. And Grandpa and I would walk up and visit with them.
Where was the fire station then?
The fire station?
Yeah.
It's the old town hall.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The gray building.
And it was the firehouse, boy, in the 30s even, I believe, the 30s. I'm not positive of that. The highway barn was in back of it.
And the roller shed.
Yeah.
You remember the roller shed?
Yeah. And then they built the new highway building on the left out towards the road. I can remember going and sitting in the fire trucks when I was a kid. And one of the greatest memories I have was 1945, when VJ Day, when the Japanese surrendered. And the Model A, we rode around the town in that, blowing the siren. Now, I was only 4 or 5, but I remember that as clear as a bell. Nellie Carlson was driving. Freddie Carlson, his son, was sitting beside him, then me, and then my grandfather. And that truck was white at that time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yep. And we drove around town, blowing the horn and blowing the siren.
Yeah. The Uaga horn.
Yeah. And I'll never forget to when the news came over the radio. My grandfather went and got a shotgun. Out in the backyard, boom, boom,
Can you imagine doing
shooting
that
up
today?
in the air. But everybody was doing stuff like that.
Sure.
People come out of their houses to celebrate and everything.
Yeah. And we had supper, and then we got up to the firehouse, and they drove around town. Well, that was one of my great memories.
Oh, yeah. Well, that Model A is still in good shape. They've rebuilt it a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's in wonderful shape,
Yeah.
and they still use it frequently.
And that was the greatest brush truck in the world. Man, you could take that thing any place.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun. But anywho, so Norm, you taught school
At the Aggie.
at the Aggie.
After I graduated as a senior, I graduated, and then I went to UMass and studied agriculture, and then came back to the Aggie.
That was at UMass Amherst, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And retired.
Yeah, after a while, they got tired of seeing me, and they gave me a nice retirement.
That's nice.
And I'm enjoying it
And
very much.
And your family, you and Sally had the 2 kiddos?
Right. Glenn and Cindy, who's living in Texas, and Wally, who lives in Norton.
And you are heading for Texas tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us why.
Well, my grandson graduated from paramedic school recently, and he graduated from the Texas Fire Academy at pretty near the same time. So he is going to get a full-time job on one of the fire departments down there, of which they have many. And
That's because they have a lot of fires down.
well, they have a lot of people down there and buildings, and
No kidding.
they do have a lot of fires too, I guess. But we're going to head down there, and I'm going to be. I've been asked to pin his badge on his uniform
That's
at a ceremony.
That's terrific.
So we're flying down there, and very honored to do that.
I would say so. Yes, indeed. That's wonderful. That is terrific. Great. Duane,
Yes, sir.
you're a cheesehead.
I am a cheesehead.
Tell us about that. You were born in Wisconsin.
Yep. I lived there till I went away to college. Well, I still went to college in the area, but then I went in the service. But after the service, I never went back to live there again. That was back in, I went in the Army in 1965. And I got married while I was in the Army. And then I just, wherever the Army took me, that was at that for years. But it was different moving out here. The
Little culture shock?
Yeah, we lived in Ohio and different places before. We sort of working our way east. Then we couldn't go any further east without getting wet. So that was, yeah, it was a culture shock.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing, you know. Now, you spent a lot of time on the road traveling.
Oh my God, yeah, I did that for years.
As I did, and I tell people this, and people refuse to believe this, but Massachusetts people are the most hated people in the country.
That's true. They don't.
We're despised.
They don't like us. The rest of the world.
Listen, I'll tell you. I had a chance to sign up a rep, or I thought I did, down in Houston, Texas. Great guy. And he said to me, he said, why don't you come on down and work with me, and let's see what we can work out, you know. And he was 6'6", Tom Heffington, one of the great guys I've met in my life. And Tom just took me around to a couple of places, and we did a lot of talking. I was only there for a couple of days. And he said, well, Bill, let me think about how your business fits with mine. I said, okay, Tommy. He said, come on back down in a couple of months, and let's do some serious talking then. I said, okay.
Was he was a rep?
He was a rep, yeah.
Okay.
He's valves and controls and stuff like that. So I went back down a couple of months later, and we went out and saw a couple of customers, and I got the same story. Mm-hmm. And I finally, I think, the fourth time down there in a year. But I was on the road all the time, you know, so I could go to New Orleans, 4 hours over to Houston, you know. I really wanted this guy. He was successful. And finally, the fourth time, he said to me, we'd end up each day, by the way, getting 2 six-packs for the ride back to the office. And so he finally said to me, you know what, Bill? He said, I think I know you pretty well now. He said, and I think I'm ready to work with you and take you to my real customers. He would not take me to his customers. He took me to this guy that had a repair shop and that guy that was a dreamer, but he would not take me to his customers. Now, you know why?
I have a
you know why?
Oh, yeah.
Because the unscrupulous principals would send their sales manager down and work with Tom, and Tom would take him to all his good customers. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks later, the sales manager was calling the customers saying, you know what, that bozo Tom is charging you guys 15 to 20% commission on this stuff. I will take you direct,
Sell you direct
and save you all that money, and cut Tom's throat. Oh, it was standard procedure with some of those guys. But Tommy finally had to find out whether he trusted me or not. He said, you know, he said, we really don't trust you, Yankees. I heard that so many times.
Oh, yeah. Even not just Massachusetts. My brother worked for Shell Oil out of Chicago. He was an account manager. He had the fuels count for O'Hare.
Oh, well, that's a lousy deal.
That was a lousy deal. But he was employed by Shell. There was no commission type thing. But anyway, they closed all that operation. They moved everything to the headquarters in Houston. And he said during the orientation, all these 300-400 Shell people moved. The first thing he told them was, get those damn Illinois plates off your car, put Texas plates on them, and become a redneck. He says, you won't have any trouble at all. If you continue to be, well, we did this in Illinois, and this is how we did this, and this is what we do, he says, you're going to have a tough time here.
Cutting your own throat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get rid of those plates and become a Texan.
It's amazing the amount of animosity that you run into down there. And it was the same thing over and over and over. I had the same conversation.
Yep.
You know, Mr. Bill, you're a pretty reasonable guy. I like you. How can anybody elect somebody like Ted Kennedy?
Yeah, that was another. They couldn't fathom how we could vote for somebody like Ted Kennedy.
I couldn't fathom it either.
Yeah.
Come to think of it.
My brother sent me the greatest bumper sticker. It was back in the embargo days and stuff. Every Texan was running around him talking about the Northeast, particularly. Let the bastards freeze in the dark.
Yep. Yeah, because we would not entertain the thought of having refineries up here in pristine
We didn't want anything
New
like that here.
England. You know, keep them down there in Louisiana. It's already a mess down there. And our politicians were saying that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I remember it a little differently than you. It was a little more colorful language.
Yeah, that's right.
Too.
There was a few more words tucked in there.
Well, I found the same thing when I was stationed in Georgia. I had mass plates on my car, and I was a target of every redneck sheriff on the way down.
Oh, yeah.
And that was down on 301. That's the only way you could get there. So I got Georgia plates on, and I learned how to speak Cajun. And I was in like Flynn, and I was just one of the boys, and it was great. And I've since lost my Southern accent. I got my Yankee accent.
You can always turn it back on again.
Yeah.
Georgia, dirt roads.
Yeah.
And northern Florida, dirt roads. That's what I remember. And they're still down there, dirt roads.
But the food was fantastic.
Yeah,
Southern cooking is wonderful.
Yeah. You know what? My wife just got back from Tennessee yesterday, and she said, guess what I had? Sausage, gravy, and biscuits.
Oh, yeah.
No grits?
And grits.
Oh, and grits. Okay.
And she said, it was good.
Yeah.
There's only one place around here that I know of. It's up in Franklin. James's Diner, I think it is, or James's Restaurant. I think it was. He has got real Southern.
Okay.
And your wife,
It's the same
Monica.
For a while there, for breakfast, when we were making breakfast, we'd make sauce. White gravy with sausage in it, and over biscuits, and served it with scrambled eggs. That was a popular breakfast.
That's the national biscuit breakfast of the South.
Right. And it's
Well, that's where that came from.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, again, we got that going to see my brother in Houston.
Yeah.
And they sometimes use bacon, they chop up bacon in it.
Yeah, I don't
That got
like
pretty
that.
salty.
Yeah.
But the sausage was excellent.
You know
I
what
got to eat pig's feet.
Pig's
I
feet,
like
yeah.
pig's feet.
Yeah. Now, when you're eating high on the hog, you're not eating pig's feet.
No.
That's right. and the other thing, too, down Texas, that you never see up here, chicken fried steak.
That's another thing I can't find around here.
That's right. And you know, they had cook-offs down in Texas. And boy, if you win the award for the best chicken fried steak, I mean, you know your restaurant business is going to go sky high. One of the Foxborough Company salesmen took me to the #1 restaurant 2 years before that won that cook-off. He says, you got to go here for chicken fried steak, man.
And every family has their own recipe for barbecue sauce.
Oh, yeah.
There's a million different recipes, and they're all good.
Yeah.
They're great.
There's a company in Houston, Good and Company is the name of it, Goode. It's right by the Galleria, the original one. It's a real fancy place. You order the stuff inside and you bring it out and sit on picnic tables. But boy, oh boy, that's the best barbecue I have ever had. And jalapeno mashed potatoes and jalapeno bread and brisket and 2 long necks of Shiner beer, and you were set. And that's what, in fact, Tom Heffington took me there, and he says, Bill, he said, this is hot food. He says, this is 2 long neck food.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you get off the plane in Texas, you can start to smell barbecue.
Yeah.
And just follow your nose. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it sure is. Boy, I'll tell you. So, Duane, you found your way to Norfolk.
On our way to Norfolk.
We got off the beat there.
We moved here. We rented an apartment for the first year.
Yep.
I said, well, we don't know the area. We don't know one town from the next town and stuff. So we ended up buying a house in Brockton. In those days, Brockton wasn't what Brockton is today.
Right,
Brockton was an old shoe city.
It was, absolutely.
So it had some stately old homes and stuff from the old
they had
shoe
tanneries
barons.
over there, yeah.
And we lived there for a few years, and then things started to change, really change. And I was on the board of directors of the soccer program there, and also a coach and a referee. We taught the referees. But one of the kids I had on one of the teams, one of the travel teams, his father was a police lieutenant. We were talking about, he says, what's going on? He says, you wouldn't believe, he says, what's really happening here. He said, we got to talk about, well, we're going to move, and he says, do it sooner rather than later. He says, if you wait, you're going to get stuck here. And some friends of ours, he wouldn't believe it when I told him. They got stuck for years. They couldn't sell their house.
Right.
Now I see they're starting to rise again.
Gentrifying
Yeah,
houses.
exactly.
And,
They got a train
they're
station.
changing the
and
neighborhoods.
People
and
from coming out of town.
they do that in Boston a lot. They're doing all those brownstones that were built, in the 1890s and 1900s.
Well, what up to Brockton gets popular because the real estate values or prices are lower. Some of these people can't buy a house anyplace else, and they, being on the train, they can go any place they want now.
Those trends never ceases to amaze me. They buy a brownstone that's been carved up in Boston. There's 8 rooms in there, and 8 separate people or families living in those places. And they buy it, they kick everybody out, and they do this over and over and over. My question is, where do the poor people go?
Well, that's a problem. The housing today is a big problem in the Boston area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no bleeding heart liberal, as you well know, but I really feel bad with the inequities in the housing market. I mean, we've got people living like third country people in places in this country. It doesn't seem to me that that's right.
No.
But
all 3 of us would struggle today here to go out and buy a house and start over again. Just from the percentage of your take-home pay that would have to go into that mortgage. It's unreal.
It is. We would look towards Bellingham or Uxbridge or Northbridge, because we couldn't afford to buy in Norfolk now. There's something wrong with that. Something really wrong.
You're right. Because the real estate takes so much of your income.
It does.
We bought that house in Brockton. Everything is relative. We went home that night. We signed the papers. I'm laying in bed at night. I said, "What did I do?
And
I just signed my life away."
And the taxes.
How are we going to afford this? They said $29,000. And today, if you can't buy a car practically for $29,000.
And you get that right, yeah. You look at some of the homes that come on the market here, and you say to yourself, "Yumpin' Yiminy."
Yeah.
They want $440,000 for that house.
That's right.
It's incredible the way it's changed.
Yep.
I know, and you really feel it too as senior citizens, because it really limits our mobility.
Oh, absolutely.
In many cases, we're forced to sell because the taxes. I mean, Norfolk has the highest average tax bill of any of the surrounding communities. So it's incredible.
My tax bill is what my mortgage payment used to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I've got a whole bunch of questions here. None of them are related. That I'm just going to, I've been thinking about this program or something like this for a long time. I've got a million questions.
Well, let's jump into it.
All right. Norm, when did you realize, what was the first time you realized you were grown up?
When I was in the Army. And they,
I think that's universal.
yeah.
I think we're all.
Well, I went in as a little kid, and 10 weeks later, I was a soldier at Fort Dix, New Jersey. And then I learned that I had a backbone and I could stand up for myself. But
You had to.
But be pleasant and be courteous,
Yeah.
and salute everything that moved.
Yeah.
And if it didn't move, you painted it OD. And so I got along famously, and I got to go to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and I became a cannon cocker. That's artilleryman. And that was great. I enjoyed that. And then they moved me to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and I enjoyed living in the South and eating the Southern food and going down to Florida and enjoying the beaches. And I got out of the Army. They gave me Bill 550 and went back to college. I mean, everything was great.
You know, Duane, when did you first realize you were growing up?
Same with him.
Same as you.
People say, what did you get out of your military experience? I says, maturing process. You mature fast.
Oh, you do.
Or you're in trouble.
You do.
What was a big deal to you before you went in wasn't such a big deal anymore afterwards.
Sergeant Brown told me, I am now your mummy and your daddy.
Oh, yeah. And you don't want me to learn your name, they used to tell you.
In looking back on it, looking back at my whole life, I've been lucky. But Sergeant Brown was this fierce-looking E7, big guy, nicest guy in the world. Turned out to be great. And he told me, well, I told a couple of us, we were shooting the breeze a little bit. He talked to us. Most of the drill sergeants didn't, but he did. And he'd say to me, well, he didn't say to me, he said to like 3 or 4 of us, he says, I don't want problems with you guys. I want to go home at 4:30 every night. I want to sit down and have dinner with my family and enjoy my kids and my wife. I don't want to have to come back here and babysit you guys. So keep your nose clean and your mouth shut.
Yep.
Now, most of our NCOs were from the South, and they had
Yeah, I think
very
ours were too.
deep Southern accent. And he would refer to us as used men's.
Oh, yeah?
We were used men's. And okay, that's what we want to be called. That's fine.
How many used men's need your uniforms alternated? So, you got any problems with your uniforms fitting right? Fall out on my immediate left. And he pointed with his right arm. Jeez.
And then the thing I remember the most was this big sergeant get up there and he says, all right, used men's, listen up now. First tune, lead tune, column tune from right.
What did he say? That was my first reaction, too. Got off the bus.
So then he said it again, even louder. Nobody moved. So finally, another guy from the north came down and he said, well, the sergeant here said, first platoon, lead platoon, column 2 from the right. Okay, fine, and off we went. But he had to translate it to us.
I was in basic training with a kid from Vermont, and he was built like a barrel, and he'd worked in the woods all his life. Spoke French, and they would, at roll call in the morning, they insisted on giving the roll to a Puerto Rican sergeant that could not pronounce names.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that was my first experience.
Yeah. So so you just got to remember now this is alphabetical, you know. So he was calling this kid from Vermont's name, and finally the kid says, "Here, Sergeant." And he goes, and he started in on him. You don't even know your name. You are a real jackass. And he's yelling at him and everything. Kid puts his head down and charged him. Oh. And knocked him into the shrubberies in front of the orderly room and was pounding on him. The sergeants, of course, were in the orderly room, standing in there nice and warm, drinking coffee. Man, they come running out. But boy, I'll tell you, he got some good licks in. You know what he got for punishment? 14 days extra duty, 2 hours every night picking up stuff.
Article
he was
15.
lucky.
No, he didn't get
No
an
Article 15.
No,
He was lucky.
Oh, yeah, but you know what? They realized they were taunting him.
Oh, yeah.
And they realized they started that, not this kid, you know? So they did it the right way. By the way, of all the things I've seen in my life, I'm tipping my hand here. I've seen two things that I think are pretty damn close to perfect. The U.S. Army, believe it or not. You know what the other one is? Disney World.
Yep. I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean,
The
they've
other
got...
services were probably the same. You were what, Coast Guard?
Yeah, there's all the difference in the world between the Army and the Coast Guard. And I like the Coast Guard much better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think they were.
I can understand that. Yeah. But the Army had everything thought out, and they had an answer for everything.
Yep.
Just like Disney World. It was absolutely
If the
incredible.
Army wanted you to have it, they'd have given it to you.
That's right.
If you don't have it, you don't need it.
You don't need it.
That's right. And it was strange how the system worked, too. You'd think, with that big an organization, and it looks so chaotic, but in the end, it works.
It works.
I used to
Absolutely.
say there's the right way, the wrong way, and the Army way.
That's right.
Another funny story. This guy went up to the first sergeant and he said, "Sir, went to the lieutenant and said, 'Sir, I'd like to get married.'" And the lieutenant looked at him and said, "If the Army wanted you to have a wife, they'd issue you one. Now get out of my office."
That's perfect. God, you got to love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I remember about basic training is we had a sergeant in the next barracks, an E6, and he was from West Virginia, and he was a rotten guy. One night he got drunk, one Saturday night. He came back in, and he started screaming. He woke everybody up. "All you Catholics, get on your knees, because you're going to confession with me." And he started, and when the Catholics wouldn't do it, man, he was hitting them. And so finally, I don't forget what the hell happened, because it was secondhand. What happened in the other barracks, I didn't know. The guys over there were telling us. But the best part is one of the guys that was in the barracks over there, his father was a state senator in, I forget where, someplace. He was connected anyway. Man, the MPs came for that guy about noontime the next day.
And he disappeared.
Off he went, never went. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm sure he probably got the stripes off his arms and probably out.
Dishonorable discharge.
The Army is, and they get it right. You know, when you screw up, they fix you.
Well, there's a big difference. You could see if you look back, you couldn't see the forest for the trees first, because they're coming at you in every direction, and you're just a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just dirt. You don't know anything. You're stupid. You probably were kind of, in their eyes, you probably were. But you could see it as you got 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. The attitude started changing with them. The efficiency, what you're doing, got better, and it was a evolution process that was very, very visible.
And you know, did you guys have the telephone pole?
No.
No? There was a telephone pole over on the ground. Crane, go over there and pick that telephone pole up. And I started to say, I can't do that. And he yelled at me over. All right, next, you get over there and help him. Finally, when you get 11 guys, you could pick the telephone pole up. What's the lesson there?
Yeah, it's
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Stuff like that the Army did, you know. It was very, very interesting.
My first experience was I got off a bus from Minneapolis. We got at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, also called Fort Lost in Woods.
Yeah, Lost in the Woods, right.
Desolate place. Oh, my God. And you know how they come under your bus and they start yelling, "Get off now!" Where they're yelling and screaming. You got 10 seconds to get out, and people are crawling all over each other to get out of that door. And then this little Puerto Rican guy, he's from Connecticut, obviously, because he starts yelling at everybody standing on this line. And he's saying something about, finally we understand, he says, all you guys from Connecticut that can read and write, you go over there. The rest of you idiots go over here.
Oh, yeah. That was
When
great.
we were at Fort Dix, and we were in the reception center, and they brought us to basic training on a bus, and all the NCOs are lined up, and the bus stops, and they start screaming and yelling and banging on the side of the bus. You got 5 seconds to get off that goddamn bus! And
they're
they're
just at
screaming
ya.
and yelling.
Yeah.
And here you're sitting on the bus with your duffel bag in your lap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I've seen him. One guy says, stand up. The other one says, sit down. They get this poor kid up and down, up and down.
You know what was another great one? I was there in November and December, October, November, and December. So you're out in the field, you're cold. They bring you into one of these auditoriums where it's about 95 degrees, and you go in there and you sit. And you get an hour's lecture or 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And then the guys are going.
Oh, yeah, the nodders.
Yeah.
And then the guy up on the stage says, Sergeant up there, all right, now listen to me carefully. Every one of you stay seated. Do not move. And then he screamed at the top of his lungs, on your feet!
Yeah.
And all the guys that were asleep popped up. They all had to march outside for push-ups.
Yeah. I had the same situation, only we were in the bleachers outside. We had hard hats on and an M1 Garand, and we found out you could hook your steel helmet to the front sight and you would be upright and they would think you were awake. But then they did the same thing. Do not obey my next order, and everybody that was sleeping stood up.
As I said, the Army's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
It was good experience.
It was. It was darn good experience.
Did you get sea duty of any kind?
I got out on the Coast Guard boats, yeah. Yeah.
Did either one of you guys dream?
Oh, all the
God,
time,
constantly.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. And some of the recurring themes go on and on and on.
Exactly. That's what I'm coming to.
Oh, yeah.
I have dreams, and I end up in 2 places.
Go ahead.
Hohenfels, Germany, in the Army, or the Foxborough Company in the stockroom. That was my first job. And invariably, that's where the dreams take me, or take place.
Well, mostly I don't even remember after I wake up. I don't remember what I did.
I don't either.
And that's fine with me. I don't need to remember
But
that.
you know, about 2 weeks ago, I had a dream that was so vivid that I remembered it, and I actually got up and wrote it down. Now, so that's one thing, okay? The next day, I couldn't read what I had written.
Yep. Well, I have recurring frustration dreams. I'm back in college, and I'm just getting ready to graduate, but I didn't go to this one class. Why didn't I go there? Now I'm not going to graduate. And I can't find the place either. I can't up and down the hallways. There's no room 810. I mean, 8-9, 811. And then I finally find it, and they're all the last class, you know, and they all say, well, the final's tomorrow. And I said, I didn't even have a book. I didn't know what's going on. And then I'm thinking, now, how am I going to lie and get out of this at home and tell them I graduated? It's crazy. Another one I get is I can't find my car. The parking lot looks so different all of a sudden. And I know I parked over here and it's gone. But these are recurring dreams.
Yeah. When I was traveling all the time, you know how in the morning you get up and supposedly you get a USA Today dropped on your doorstep, you know, because you're one of the recurring members of one of the travel groups or something, the Holiday Inn Club. I was supposed to get one dropped on. Well, guys would come along, swipe them.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I had this dream when I would get up and, newspaper's not there. Oh, wait a minute, there's one over there. I'd walk out my underwear and the door would slam behind me.
That really happens sometimes.
It always, wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dream sometimes of having pants on. You tell yourself, why didn't you put pants on, you idiot? And nothing makes any sense in these stupid dreams.
I know it.
The other thing the Army taught me is to be able to sleep anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
If you can sleep in the back of a deuce and a half that's going down the road, you can sleep most anywhere, and I enjoy that ability.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw a guy sleep standing up in formation.
Did he fall down?
No, stood there. The sergeant come over and bonked him on the head. I remember too, our commanding officer in basic training was Lieutenant Kazuo Kawiki from Hawaii, half Japanese, half Hawaiian. About 5'1". I don't know how he got in the Army. Weighed about 99 pounds. He'd stand in front of me and look up at me. Crane, you nothing but a goddamn garbage bucket. He'd scream at me, garbage bucket. And then he'd take his swagger stick and whack me on the head on the steel pot. He used to have, you know what? The funny part about it was that when we got in the last week of basic training, he'd come in, shook hands with every one of us, and wished us the best of luck. Too. And he said, you know, I enjoyed you guys. Just keep a good attitude. You're going to do all right in the Army, and decide what you're going to do with your life afterwards. But give it your all while you're in the Army, you know? He was quite a guy. But you nothing but a garbage bucket! And he'd scream at me. Oh, God. Those were good days.
Yeah.
Imagine what the bad ones were like.
I don't remember the bad ones.
Yeah, you tend to forget those.
Yeah. What was the happiest day of your life?
The day I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
that was great.
Me too. Yeah.
And I know so many people that got married, but they got unmarried along the line.
A lot of that going around.
Oh, it's terrible.
50% of the marriages.
Yeah, I got so lucky, and I have 3 wonderful kids. And
I think the three of us, we got a lot of married years here.
Yeah?
How about you?
48 or 49.
How about you?
Don't listen to that, Susie. Can't remember. Yeah, it's going to be 48 this year. Yeah. 48 years. Yeah.
How about you, Norm?
I had a great year in 1961. I graduated from college, I got married, and I got a job, all in the same month.
Man, lucky duck.
And it stuck, and I worked my way through it, and it's been great right up to this minute.
Yeah. Mary and Susie was the best thing that ever happened to me, and
we just had our 51st.
Yeah.
Wow.
10th of February.
And you got?
I got married in 61.
61.
Yeah.
39 plus, 58 years.
Yeah. Wow. I have to keep asking my wife.
Yeah.
How long have we been married?
It seems like 150.
No.
Did you ever miss an anniversary?
Quite a few.
I shouldn't. I forgot.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say this, but I came this close one day. I went out to get the mail. And there's only at least 3 or 4 cards there. What is anybody? It's not Christmas. Is anybody? Oh my God! Today's the anniversary. So I got in the house. I went down to Stop and Shop and bought a dozen roses quick.
Yeah. You know, I've always remembered the anniversary, but you know, I got to tell you this one. My son Patrick was a bit of a cut-up in school, to say the least. And so it was coming to a head, and the teacher called up and wanted to have a meeting with us and about Patrick's behavior, and I couldn't go. So Susie went. So I come home, sat down at the table for supper, and blah, 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 and so she's going 1,000,000 miles an hour in my ear, and I'm eating, and I said, "Oh, all right. Well, okay, fine. So how did the meeting go with you and the teacher?" And she goes, "Who? What do you think I've been saying for the last 5 minutes? You don't pay any attention.
You don't listen."
And I'll tell you what, if she had had a gun, I'd be dead. That was the maddest I've ever seen her. After that, I tried to pay a little more attention.
Yeah.
I never found out what happened at the meeting with Patrick either.
No, you didn't miss much, I
I
guess.
didn't miss much. Oh, gosh.
You get in trouble by just saying, yes, yeah, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're agreeing to.
Don't know.
Well, that's one of the things about losing your hearing. You just nod and say yes.
Oh, I know. Yeah. My dad was stone deaf. And he wore a hearing aid, mostly so people would know he was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
You really had to howl at him. And when things started getting exciting around the house, he just turned it off, just sat there and smiled.
You think that your hearing loss can be attributed to with the artillery?
Absolutely. It was the Colt 45 automatic that did the job on my ears in the firing range. And back then, if you complained, they said, "Oh, only sissies wear earplugs. Don't be a sissy."
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Sarge. I won't be a sissy. But
I suppose that the VA, though, saw it your way and gave
Oh,
you a
absolutely.
disability.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
yeah, I got hearing aids, and they work pretty well.
Good.
But I don't need them now.
Yeah.
I just, on certain occasions, if I'm in a big auditorium,
A lot of
and a lot of background noise.
yeah, a lot of background noise.
So
yeah.
I'm in good shape.
Good. Good for you. If you could point to one achievement and say, "This is what I am most proud of in my life," what would it be?
Raising my son, I think.
Well, my family.
Yeah.
I've got a wonderful family.
I couldn't conceive of any one of us coming up with a different answer to that.
Right.
You're right.
We saw so much heartache with parents. Some of the kids would cause. We had a neighbor, nicest family that you've ever seen. The father worked in corrections, the mother was just a peach, the daughter was our babysitter, and the son was pure evil. He caused them more grief.
You told me about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be sitting there watching TV and the blue lights are flashing through the window. They got Tommy again.
Yeah. Yeah. The heartache that some kids have caused their parents is just unreal. Unreal.
But we didn't know we were good parents. We just did what our parents had done and what had people doing around us, and it was just a normal, everyday event, and this is how we brought up our kids, and they turned out very nice.
And you brought them to church on Sundays.
I did, yeah.
And raised them properly, with good manners. You know, kids are like computers. You get out of them what you put into them. Mm-hmm. And you show me a father that takes his kids hunting or fishing or to ball games or just hangs out with the kids. And I'll show you kids that are not going to be in trouble.
Yep. But you used a word there that's missing, father.
Yeah.
So many families today don't have a father figure.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that is one of the things that is destroying this country, is the fact that the fathers have been pushed off stage or divorced and gone away or
never was there in the first place.
Or never was there in the first place. And this myth that the feminists come out with, that I can raise a child by myself every bit as well as if I had a husband, is nonsense.
It is.
Absolute nonsense. Boy.
All
right.
You asked me what I'm most proud of. Here's a picture of Roger Callahan getting a checkup by me in the ambulance, and Pat Bixby sitting next to him. And I was very pleased to be able to help people from that point of view.
Yeah.
And Roger was a great guy.
Roger was a great
He's
guy.
a super guy, yeah.
You know, back in the old days when we had cesspools.
Yep.
We still do.
Yeah. Well, back in the old days when I had a cesspool, it was blocked up, and I said I called Roger, and he said, "I can't get there today, Bill, but I'll be there tomorrow."
Got 5.
I said, "But tomorrow's Saturday." He said, "Yeah." So I'll be there. And dug us a new one and repiped the whole thing. That's what you did, was just keep on adding to the stupid things.
I never saw a septic system till we moved here.
Yeah.
We always had town or
sewer, yeah.
sewage.
Yeah.
On the farm we didn't, but we had some kind of septic system, but I never was aware of what it was. And when we bought the house here, and they said, you have a well, a septic system. I said, septic system? You mean if I flush that toilet, it goes in my backyard? Yeah. I said, whoa, I'm not sure I like that.
Well, maybe you can wrap it up in little barrels and save it then.
Save it, yeah.
No, but yeah, this unique for even some of the smallest towns in the Midwest and down south.
Got a sewage system.
Yeah, have town sewerage. Yeah, we're kind of behind the times a little bit, I think. Hey, I got one more that we're winding down, folks. So I got one other one. What was your first car?
Oh my God, that's easy.
47 Ford 2-door sedan with a flathead V8 into it, and that was a wonderful car. And I drove it all over the place. I took it to Georgia when I was driven down there, and I really liked that car.
My stepfather, of course, had cars, and he'd fix them up and sell them.
Oh yeah.
And he had a 47 Ford.
There you go.
Gray, 4-door sedan.
That's right.
With the Columbia 2-speed rear end.
Oh, okay.
Man, and I had my eye on that car, and he sold it. Man, I wanted him to keep that for another year, so that could be my first car.
Oh, sure.
It wasn't.
You didn't get it.
No. I ended up with a 53 Oldsmobile 98.
Wow. That's a big car.
Big car.
A gigantic engine.
Yeah, you could watch the gas gauge just go down when you stepped on the gas. Yeah. What was yours, Duane?
52 Chevy. It was in a snowbank for years. This guy developed cataracts, quit driving. He quit driving when the fuel pump went out. I don't know how he says he couldn't see anymore, but these did matter to him. He kept driving. But it sat in a snowbank for years. I paid $45 for that car. And the tires were gone because of the years and stuff. Put a new fuel pump on it. Put 4 retreads. In those days, you could get retreads.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a tank. It was solid, but it just couldn't get out of its own way. The Power Glide.
Yeah. Oh, Power Glide. Oh, jeepers.
You put the accelerator down, and about 3 minutes later, it starts to move.
To creep.
Yeah. But I kept that car for a long time. It never,
Well, that was I think that was what, 218 cubic inch 6?
something like that. Yeah, inline 6.
That thing was indestructible. Yeah.
What was your best car?
Boy. Well,
That was easy.
that's a great question. Yiminy. I had a Buick Park Avenue for a company car one time. That was a beautiful car, but it wasn't the best car I ever had because, God, I had a lot of repairs. I'll have to think about that one. Wow. Maybe this car I got right now.
Yeah.
The Buick Lucerne. I mean, it's an old one, but boy, it's a beautiful car.
I splurged when I came back overseas and bought a Chevelle 67 Chevelle SS 396.
Oh, those things moved right along.
Oh my God! I got about 6,000 miles to the first set of rear tires because you just couldn't with a 4-speed. You just could not smoke them up. You know.
What was it? What did it have for an engine?
396.
Oh,
V8.
V8.
Yeah. God, you could pull stumps with that if you had the right transmission. Oh, wow. Not too good on gas, though, if I recall.
About
But
7,
gas was
8.
cheaper back then. Very much so.
Shoot. Well, I think we must be approaching the end here.
Yeah,
Probably a good
we got
place
the 2-minute warning, so just like in a football game.
All right. Have we got time for one more question?
Yep, we do.
All right. What is your favorite flavor ice cream?
Breyer's vanilla with a little black vanilla beans in it.
Those are dead insects, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah. Norm?
Oh, heavenly hash or something like that.
Okay.
With lots of raisins and currants and stuff in there that you can chew on.
Sounds great. Chocolate is mine.
Yeah, chocolate's good, yeah.
Yeah. And what is your favorite order out food? When you have a special event, you go to eat, what is the #1 choice that you go for?
Prime rib.
I agree, or steak, beef.
Prime rib.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's
Second would be lamb because my wife hates lamb.
Yeah.
Won't cook it.
Yeah, me too.
If you want it, eat it out. She says, I'm not bringing it. I was cooking that stuff.
That's hideous.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, listen, folks. This is our first go-round with this concept, and one of our old guys is missing, so we will do our next show, and we'll have 4 of us here, and we've got reams of things to go through, so we're only scratching the surface.
Yep.
So,
Hope you guys liked it.
right?
It'll get better as it goes along.
Yeah, and if you do like it, one of the best things you could do is to send money in plain paper bags, used money, not the new
used,
stuff.
unmarked bills.
Unmarked bills, and send it to our attention. Yeah. So, on that note, good night, folks, and be safe.
Stay warm.